In an era of free spirit, social change, and rebellion against establishment, one baseball team embodied the cultural revolution like no other. With their colorful uniforms, unprecedented facial hair, and maverick attitudes, they transformed America's pastime while dominating it completely. This wasn't just a great baseball team. This was the Oakland Athletics of the early 70s, the Swingin' A's, a collection of characters and talent so distinctive, so relentlessly successful that they remained the last team to win 3 consecutive World Series championships. They weren't just athletes, though. They were revolutionaries with personalities as colorful as their uniforms. Reggie, Catfish, Blue, Bando, Fingers, Rudy, all players who transcended the game while redefining what a baseball team could look like. Their story is one of unprecedented excellence amid constant turmoil, larger-than-life personalities, and just the perfect embodiment of baseball's most tumultuous era. The early 70s in America was a period of profound change and disillusionment. The optimism of the 60s had faded, replaced with cynicism as the Vietnam War dragged on. The Watergate scandal unfolded, and an energy crisis gripped the nation. Inflation soared, and Americans faced economic uncertainty after decades of post-war prosperity. The cultural landscape was in full revolution. The women's movement gained momentum, environmental awareness was rising, and African Americans continued pushing for equality in all aspects of American life. Music, fashion, and film embraced newfound freedoms and questioned traditional authority. Sports, too, were entering a new era. Athletes were becoming more outspoken about social issues. Television was transforming sports marketing, and traditional power structures were being challenged. Team owners faced their first real threats to their absolute control as player unions gained strength. Oakland itself was a city in transition, grappling with urban challenges, social tension, and the emergence of the Black Panthers. The Bay Area had become an epicenter of counterculture movements and progressive politics, a fitting backdrop for baseball's most iconoclastic team. Now, the Athletics franchise hadn't always been baseball's revolutionaries. In fact, the team had a storied history dating back to actually Philadelphia, where under Connie Mack, they won 5 World Series between 1910 and 1930, but decades of decline followed, and by the time that the team moved to Kansas City in '55, they were perennial losers. Everything changed, though, when Charles O. Finney, a self-made millionaire insurance tycoon from Indiana, purchased the team in 1960. Flamboyant, stubborn, and visionary, Finley was determined to make his mark on baseball, whether baseball liked it or not. In 1968, against considerable opposition, Finley moved the team to Oakland, California. "I'm not only going to change the location," Finley declared, "I'm going to change everything about this team. We're going to be winners, and we're going to do it with style." Finley's first innovations were cosmetic. He introduced bright Kelly green and gold as team colors. He made white cleats mandatory and would pioneer later colorful alternate uniforms. But his most important work was happening behind the scenes as he built one of baseball's greatest farm systems. The Oakland Dynasty was not built overnight. Though notoriously frugal, Finley invested heavily in scouting and player development through the 60s, focusing particularly on finding talented young pitchers and athletes who could thrive in Oakland Coliseum's spacious dimensions. Under farm director Bill Rigney, the Athletics developed a pipeline of extraordinary talent. While most fans focus on the stars, the A's dynasty was built on remarkable organizational depth and development. In 1971, Finley made a crucial hire, bringing in a tough, no-nonsense Dick Williams as manager. A disciplinarian with tactical brilliance, Williams was the perfect field general for a collection of talent and ego that was taking shape. Williams' relationship with Finley would prove tempestuous, but initially they shared a singular vision, building a championship team regardless of baseball's conventions or hurt feelings. Williams wouldn't coddle stars or tolerate excuses, and his hard-driving style pushed the talented A's to fulfill their potential. With Finley collecting the talent and Williams molding it into a cohesive unit, the stage was set for something extraordinary. The Athletics improved to 101 wins in 1971, signaling their arrival as contenders. The dynasty was about to begin. Now, let's meet the remarkable characters who made up this colorful, contentious, and championship-caliber team. The unquestioned star was Reggie Jackson, whose mammoth home runs and outsized personality earned him the nickname Mr. October for postseason heroics. With his powerful swing, distinctive glasses, and willingness to speak his mind, Jackson embodied both the excellence and controversy that defined the team. Jackson wasn't just a great player, though. He was a cultural icon who understood his importance as a prominent black athlete in a changing America. His 32 home runs and 117 RBI in 1973 only began to capture his impact on the field. Now, while his outspoken nature frequently put him at odds with both teammates and management, Jim Catfish Hunter was the ace of an extraordinary pitching staff. The soft-spoken North Carolinian won 21 games in 1971, 21 again in 72, and again in 73, and then 25 in 1974, combining pinpoint control with competitive fire. His reputation for calm under pressure made him the team's big-game pitcher. Now, Hunter's nickname was actually invented by Finley as a marketing ploy, but the pitcher's down-home authenticity made it stick. His contract dispute with Finley would later make him baseball's first true free agent, but during championship years, he was the steady hand guiding a spectacular rotation. Now let's talk about Vida Blue, who burst onto the scene in 1971 with one of the greatest pitching seasons ever, at least in modern history, going 24-8 with a 1.82 ERA, winning both the Cy Young Award and American League MVP at just 21 years old. His electric fastball and devastating curve made him nearly unhittable. Blue's relationship with Finley soured during a contract dispute that caused him to miss much of spring training in 1972, affecting his performance that season, but he did rebound to become a crucial part of all three championship teams, his blazing fastball complementing Hunter's precision perfectly. Captain Sal Bando was the team's emotional leader at third base. Though less heralded nationally than some teammates, Bando was the glue that held a volatile A's team together. He combined 20 or more home runs each year with excellent defense and unquestioned leadership. Bando's importance went far beyond stats, though. In a clubhouse full of strong personalities and ongoing feuds, he commanded universal respect. Williams and later manager Alvin Dark relied heavily on Bando to maintain team focus amid the constant chaos. Joe Rudy also embodied understated excellence in left field. His spectacular catch in the 1972 World Series became an iconic image, but his real value was in his consistency, hitting about .300, providing over 20 home runs each year, and playing Gold Glove defense without drama or headlines. How about Campy? Bert Campaneris was a catalyst at shortstop and a leadoff hitter. The speedy Cuban led the league in stolen bases 6 times and provided defensive range that anchored the infield. His bat-throwing incident in the 1972 playoffs against Detroit became one of the era's most controversial moments. Now let's go to the bullpen. Rollie Fingers revolutionized relief pitching while sporting baseball's most famous facial hair. His handlebar mustache became his trademark, but his pitching made him a Hall of Famer. As the game's dominant reliever, Fingers frequently pitched multiple innings to close out a game. Fingers' mustache began as part of Finley's promotional gimmick, offering players $300 to grow facial hair, but that became a personal trademark that he maintained for the rest of his life. On the mound, his mastery of the slider and unflappable demeanor made him baseball's premier reliever. Gene Tenace provided unexpected power from the catcher's position and versatility as a first baseman. His stunning performance in the 1972 World Series, hitting 4 home runs in that series after just hitting 5 throughout the entire regular season, made him an unlikely hero. Now, the pitching depth extended beyond Hunter and Blue. Ken Holtzman won 19 games in both 72 and 73, while John Blue Moon Odom provided additional rotational strength. Now, this pitching depth, combined with Fingers anchoring the bullpen, gave Oakland consistent excellence on the mound. Now, together, these men formed a team unlike any before or since, combining extraordinary talent and unprecedented individualism. They fought with each other, they fought with their owner, they fought with their manager, and fought opposing teams, all while winning championships. Charlie Finley was always looking for promotional edges, but the most enduring contribution to baseball culture came almost by accident. In 1972, during spring training, Reggie Jackson showed up with a fully grown beard, challenging baseball's long-standing unwritten rule against facial hair. But rather than fight against this challenge to tradition, Finley embraced it in his characteristic fashion. If one player with facial hair generated publicity, what about an entire team of mustache players? Finley offered each player a $300 bonus to grow a mustache by Father's Day. In baseball's earliest days of modest salaries, this was a significant chunk of change, and players quickly complied. Jackson eventually shaved his beard, but kept the stash. By June, the Oakland A's had transformed from just another baseball team into the Mustache Gang, a visual representation of the changing times. Rollie Fingers took it the furthest, crafting his handlebars into a wax masterpiece that became a lifelong trademark. The baseball establishment was horrified. For decades, players have been clean-cut, conforming to military-style grooming standards. The A's mustaches, combined with their long hair and flamboyant uniforms, represented a visual rebellion against baseball's conservative culture. The facial hair was just part of the A's distinctive appearance. Their bright green and gold uniforms, white cleats, and mix-and-match combinations of colored tops and pants made them baseball's most recognizable team. In 1973, Finley introduced alternate jerseys in different colors, now standard throughout sports but revolutionary at the time. Finley's promotional innovations extended beyond appearances. He introduced Ball Girls, a mechanical rabbit that delivered baseballs to umpires, and even had a live mule named Charlie O as the team mascot. He pioneered night World Series games and advocated for the designated hitter rule. By embracing individualism in appearance, the Athletics connected with the changing culture of 1970s America. Their distinctive look attracted new fans, particularly younger ones who appreciated the team's willingness to challenge tradition while excelling on the field. Now, the Athletics' dominance extended across 3 remarkable seasons from 72 to 74, each culminating in a World Series championship. This 3-year reign stands as baseball's last true dynasty. No team since has won 3 consecutive World Series. The 1972 season saw the A's win 93 games and the AL West division by 5.5 games over the Chicago White Sox. Catfish Hunter led the team with 21 wins, while Reggie Jackson paced the offense with 25 home runs. The American League Championship Series against the Detroit Tigers was tense and controversial. In Game 2, shortstop Bert Campaneris was hit by a pitch from Detroit's Laron LeGros and responded by throwing the bat toward the mound, causing a bench-clearing brawl and his suspension. Despite the setback, the A's persevered to win the series in 5 games, advancing to face my team, the Cincinnati Reds, known as the Big Red Machine, in the World Series. But unfortunately for me, your faithful Cincinnatian narrator, the 1972 World Series would produce an unlikely hero in catcher Gene Tenace. After hitting again just 5 home runs in the regular season, Tenace exploded for 4 in the series, driving in 9 runs and earning well-deserved MVP honors as the A's defeated my Reds in 7 games. Now, the series showcased Oakland's pitching excellence and defensive prowess, particularly Joe Rudy's spectacular leaping catch against the left field wall in Game 2. When Rollie Fingers recorded the final out in Game 7, the Athletics had their first championship since 1930. Few realized it at the time, but Finley's bold prediction would prove accurate. This was indeed just the beginning of a dynasty. The 1973 season began with increasing tension between Finley and manager Dick Williams. Despite winning the championship, their relationship had deteriorated amid Finley's micromanagement and Williams' desire for autonomy. Now, the tension would explode during the World Series and in the infamous Mike Andrews incident. After reserve infielder Mike Andrews made 2 errors in Game 2, Finley tried to have him removed from the roster by claiming that he was injured. But Commissioner Bowie Kuhn forced Finley to reinstate Andrews, and the team wore black armbands in protest of their owner's behavior. Despite these distractions, the Athletics won 94 games in the regular season, again capturing the AL West. The A's beat the O's, the Baltimore Orioles, in the ALCS, with Catfish Hunter winning 2 games. In the World Series against the New York Mets, Reggie Jackson earned MVP honors, hitting .310 with a home run and driving in 6 runs as Oakland won in 7 games. The victory was particularly sweet given the off-field turmoil. Immediately after the series, Williams resigned as manager, unable to continue working under Finley's interference. "No amount of success is worth this," Williams told reporters. He would later sign to manage the Yankees before Finley blocked the move, forcing him to the California Angels instead. Ugh. Now, Finley replaced Williams with Alvin Dark, a veteran manager who understood the job was more about managing Finley than managing the players. The dynasty would continue, but the internal strife was becoming even more pronounced. The 1974 season saw the A's win 90 games and their 4th straight AL West title. Catfish Hunter had his finest season, going 25-12 with a .249 ERA to win the Cy Young Award. Behind him, the pitching staff remained dominant, while Reggie Jackson led the offense with 29 home runs. The A's defeated the Baltimore Orioles again in the ALCS, but tensions were growing behind the scenes. Hunter had discovered that Finley had failed to make payments to an insurance annuity that was stipulated in his contract, setting the stage for a grievance that would change baseball forever. In the World Series, Oakland faced the LA Dodgers, winning in 5 games as Fingers earned MVP honors with a win and 2 saves. The A's had accomplished something that no team had done since the 1949 to 1953 Yankees, win 3 consecutive World Series. As the team celebrated their 3rd championship, few realized that the dynasty was about to unravel. The combination of free agency, Finley's financial concerns, and the constant internal strife would soon tear apart baseball's most colorful champions. Even in triumph, the contradictions of the swinging A's were evident. Unprecedented success amid unprecedented dysfunction. Now, the dismantling began almost immediately after the '74 World Series. In December, an arbitrator ruled that Catfish Hunter was a free agent due to Finley's failure to fulfill his contract obligations. So Hunter signed with the New York Yankees for a then astronomical $3.75 million over 5 years. Finley's prediction was partially correct. Baseball's reserve clause was crumbling, and full free agency would arrive by '76. For the Athletics, Hunter's departure was just the first blow. With free agency looming and unwilling to pay rising salaries, Finley attempted to sell Rudy, Fingers, and Blue to other teams for cash in '76. Commissioner Bowie Kuhn blocked the sales in the best interest of baseball, and that led to a bitter legal battle. After the 76 season, the dam broke. Bando signed with Milwaukee. Gene Tennis left for San Diego. Rudy joined the California Angels. Fingers went to San Diego. And Jackson signed a massive deal with the Yankees, where he would become Mr. October, but for a different team. The 77 A's collapsed to 63 and 98. Finishing dead last. The dynasty was officially over, torn apart by economics, ego, and baseball's changing landscape. Finley himself would sell the team in 1980, ending his tumultuous ownership. The dynasty he built and then dismantled remained his greatest achievement and his greatest failure. But, I mean, come on, his greatest achievement. He won 3 World Series. The Oakland A's dynasty left an indelible mark on baseball. Their 3 consecutive World Series titles haven't been matched since, and their 1970s run represented the last true dynasty before free agency and economic disparity made such sustained excellence more difficult. Even with the Athletics franchise, the swinging A's established a tradition of doing more with less, of innovation in the face of financial constraints, a philosophy that would later inspire the Moneyball approach of the early 2000s. Their cultural impact was even more significant. The A's permanently changed baseball's aesthetics and attitude. Their mustaches and colorful uniforms broke baseball out of its conservative visual tradition, paving the way for individualism and self-expression now common throughout sports. The Athletics showed that excellence and individuality could coexist, that players didn't need to conform to traditional expectations to succeed on the field. This lesson extended beyond appearance to how players expressed themselves publicly and related to authority. 5 key members of the dynasty, Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, Rollie Fingers, Billy Williams, and Tony La Russa, who began actually as an A's coach, would eventually be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. In today's MLB, with its colorful uniforms, player celebrations, facial hair, and focus on individual expression, the DNA of the swinging A's is everywhere. They didn't just win championships, they changed how baseball looked, felt, and sounded. Now, the members of the swinging A's would go their separate ways after the dynasty ended, with varying fortunes. Now, Jackson became a Yankees legend, winning 2 more World Series and cementing his Hall of Fame legacy. Hunter pitched successfully for the Yankees before retiring early due to arm problems. He later battled ALS and died in 1999 at just 53 years old. Fingers continued his excellence, winning both MVP and Cy Young honors with Milwaukee in 1981. Bando became a successful executive with Milwaukee after his playing career. And Vida Blue moved to the San Francisco Giants but never quite recaptured his early career dominance on the other side of the bay. Now, many of the players maintain close bonds despite the feuds that characterized their playing days. The shared experience of winning amid chaos created lasting connections, and several expressed that only their teammates could truly understand what they had experienced under Finley. Finley himself never again experienced the success he had with the A's. He sold the team in the 80s and lived until 1996, witnessing baseball's economic explosion that he both predicted and feared. His legacy remains complicated, a visionary who changed baseball while alienating almost everyone whom he worked with. The Athletics franchise would experience periods of success in the late 80s and early 2000s, but never again reached the sustained excellence of the swinging A's. The team continues to struggle with stadium issues and financial constraints in the modern baseball economy. Now, they were more than just a great baseball team. They were a cultural phenomenon, a perfect storm of talent and personality, emerging in a nation undergoing profound change. In an era of rebellion and self-expression, they brought those values to baseball's traditional fields. They fought with each other constantly. They defied their own eccentric owner regularly and challenged baseball's establishment relentlessly. And they won 3 consecutive championships amid the chaos, a testament to extraordinary talent and the strange alchemy that sometimes turns conflict into greatness. They were the Oakland Athletics of 1972 to 1974, the swinging A's, the Mustache Gang, baseball's most colorful dynasty, and the last team to win 3 straight World Series. Their legacy lives on in every colorful uniform, every player's carefully cultivated facial hair, and every expression of individuality in what once was the most conservative of sports.